Hey friends, Shane from HowToWrench.com, and we got a couple of new exciting tools to set up here in the shop. We're going to build more of a professional soldering station with the help of these cool tools. So we've got here this helping hand set, and what this is quite the cool setup to have a magnifying glass, a whole, multiple different holders and vices and pinpoints to support the soldering processes itself. We've got a bunch of things that we need to fix around the shop. Here's a little coil that we need to replace the diode. We want to be able to solder new ones of those on, save the part. We got some switches that we're going to put together to build our new storage cabinet. So lots of stuff coming up, and we thought this was perfect time to go ahead and start to put to use. So let's get to it. So that's pretty cool. You could see there, I was switching between colors. Go ahead and turn that back on, just simple on off. Then this button here is switching colors. And then simply brighter or dimmer. Pretty cool. I'll go dimmer. Still pretty dang bright. And brighter. And that's going to be nice. This is super adjustable, just like a dial indicator mount that I'm familiar with on the machining side. That's pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and turn this light off. It is bright. Cool. And what's neat about my new workbench, man, really, doing that one-handed, this thing's really got some girth to it. But all right, that is pretty stinking cool. These are some strong magnets, let me tell you. Seems to have a right amount of grip on the alligator clips. They're all heat shrunk already. Nice little thumb screws. They gave you a bunch extra. I'm not sure why they gave you so many extra, but even an extra thumb screw for that one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 6 extra with thumb screws. But they even gave you extra pads for the jaws on the vise. I'm impressed by that. That is really super cool. But you can see here all the different ways you can hold something. If I wanted to go ahead, like this is the board on this drone. If I felt it was best to go ahead and clamp it like that or clamp it like this, I go ahead and do so, or I can go ahead and use my pinpoints here. Set this up. All right, you can see here I got the board on there. Makes it really nice and easy to support that as well. Get my magnifying glass down there. Let's go ahead and turn that light back on. You can see I can get in there and do the work I need to do. And that thing's going to be super stinking cool. Little tubular vise there, in case you're doing some round stock or something, that's going to be better. But this is really super adjustable. It's just the same kind of setup for a dial indicator. So this is pretty cool. All right, my friends, I will put links below before I forget, but here is the product name. And like I said, we want to give a shout out to them for supporting the How to Wrench and Tools to Wrench YouTube channels. But we're going to go ahead here now and we're going to move this stuff out of the way and put it to use. We've actually got a repair to do where we got to change the diode on this coil here and get our project cabinet for our electrical spares. So we need to fix this so we can move forward with that. And then we got a bunch of switches to wire up. So we definitely know we can put this thing to use. So let's get to it. I decided to try out the little vise here, and it had just a nice little bit of soft clamping pressure on there, and I noticed as I was soldering on there, it didn't move around. It stayed on that base just great. This thing was fantastic. I'm just going to fast forward this, but you can see here that it worked well. The magnifying glass was perfect. Everything about this just worked great. In a couple minutes here, I'm going to go ahead and test this coil and prove that it actually worked. If you don't know how to test these coils, let me show you. We have a 12-volt coil and at 55 watts. Use good old ChatGPT to find out that that's 5 amps. What happened when we were playing around and using jumper cables, and we don't know if we shorted it, but we did intentionally try to reverse polarity knowing there was a diode in here, and it fried. We let the smoke out, and we did not have the camera running. So we bought a package of these diodes off Amazon, just soldered this on, and now we're going to test it to see if it actually fixed it. So if you ever do this and you run into this, you know, get a magnifying glass and read that number on there. I bought, I think it was a 10 pack of these for like $6. Had them here the next day, so your butt cheeks can settle down a little bit. But what happens here is when we energize this coil, this should pull this latch in, which then opens the tool drawer. Okay, so I'm going to try to do this without shorting anything out again. But I'm going to go ahead here, and you'll notice I'm just always a big fan by habit of hooking up. I can do this without catching myself. Hooking up the ground last. As you can see here, we have this marked, but we may have gotten lucky. We don't even know, you know, between the diode on here. The very first time I ever tested it, I did this way, hooked up positive here, negative here, and it just always worked. It wasn't until we switched it that it went, uh-oh, boom, boom. So what should happen now, if this new diode works, is this should pull the plunger in. So I'm going to go ahead here and boom. Oh, man, I'm happy about that. That was a fun, cheap lesson. So that's how this works. So have fun, go break some stuff, go test some stuff. What now? I'll clip these edges off here, and now we can go back to working on the project. All right, friends, thank you for sending us the helping hands. I do not know how to pronounce that, but I got links below in the description. But I wanted to show you the little area that I started to set up. I still got to get one of my LED lights that you've seen me use in other videos I love, but basically I have a lot of plugins. I've got some pegboard to hang some tools, and got all the different soldering tools and stations, and all in one spot. Super stoked about this, but boy, that really did the job. Let me show you the project that we're working on. Man, I cannot wait to just keep getting this done. I'm really learning a lot because I got into 3D printing. My buddy Kenny and I started working on some stuff. He invented this little tool, the meter buddy. You hang it on whatever you need to do, and then you can clamp your amp meter around there. He uses a lot in the irrigation space. So his first invention, pretty proud of him, and he got me inspired to get my butt going. So I'm gonna make my own electrical box. I've already started making some testing parts. What I have here that's so rad is, take a look and see if this looks familiar. If it looks familiar, it's probably not the best thing, but this is one of those medical storage cabinets that you would see in a hospital where the staff have to go punch in their password, and then when they do, boop, a drawer pops open and they get the medication or supply or surgical need or whatever that's tracked. Another space you may see these in is aviation, where they're incredibly particular about the inventory and need to know who took what bolt and what tool. What I'm excited about this cabinet is all these pull-out drawers and storage capability. This is all adjustable. This is a track system, so I could set it all up, but I am going to be able to take everything you can imagine electrical. Here's my box of jumpers. Everything's going to be in this one cabinet, so I think that's going to be pretty rad. But here's where the challenge was. Check this out. All those drawers are wired up, and at first I was like, okay, I'm going to build a box with 45 switches, right? I thought, dang, that just gets super expensive. That's no lie about it. And then I thought, well, just going to get rid of the switches and, you know, put a pull string or something on it to release the solenoid. They're just on a spring latch. Kind of showed it in the video, but when the electric solenoid releases that latch, then the spring just pops the drawer out, right? And I was just like, you know, the thing's just pretty dang cool. So I started messing around with it, decided to go the switch route. Well, my buddy Kenny said, hey, you know, in landscaping, we got something similar to that. And you don't need the 45 switches. You actually only need, in this particular case, we only need 14. I'm like, no way. So learned how to wire it. I'm going to be showing all this in the future, but pretty simple wiring diagram, the way this is done. But basically then you got to put a power supply to 12 volts. That's going to get mounted up in there. And this thing even came with the cables and everything. So I already have the wire harness underneath here to run out. There's something wrong with it. Some wires broke somewhere. Probably why they scrapped the thing. But we could fix that, right? We could track down wires and fix it. We've tested a few coils. numerous coils. Actually, I've tested about, 6 or 7 of them, and they were all good. So I'll fix the wiring problem, probably somewhere along here, and we'll get this thing in shape. But what's going to be cool about that, when that factory cable comes up, I'm going to put it in my box, tie the power supply in. The power supply had two 12-volt spots that I'm going to mount in here, which one 12-volt supply will supply all the coils. Okay, so if you remember earlier in the video, I said that was 12 volts, and they're 5 amps. Each one of those little coils, 12 volts, 5 amps. And like I said, the power supply is going to let me do one of those switches at a time, but then the second part of that power supply can run an LED light. So, I mean, it's just going to work out fantastic. But to do all that, I still got to get better about 3D printing. I've been playing around with the soldering tool, laying up projects there. This is another little electric knife grinder that wasn't working. I thought, well, let's take it apart and start looking at it. These batteries are junk. I can get these. This is no big deal. I can go ahead and get these. I don't really care about this being cordless so much or rechargeable. So for me, I wanted to just, at least make the factory plug in this guy for the power supply. I wanted it to work, right? Then I got an adjustable power supply so I could kind of play around with that and see what's going on. This thing was just broke because of bad connections over time. They just snapped off. So I'm kind of having some fun in this space. Not stuff I normally work on, but this thing is going to be cool because what it's going to replace, if you've seen videos, if you've been a fan of the channel for a long time, you see one of the things we've been really, I guess, known for as well is tool innovation and storage and shop management, building all these, dedicated tool and storage areas. And so electrically, this is a really cheap way for you to get into this if you like this yourself. Check this out. Might look familiar. You ever got a haircut? It's a salon station cart. You pick these up on Marketplace like 20 bucks all day long. But this thing has been great, honestly. Throw my soldering iron up there. When I'm done and want to cool down, I just pop it in the hairdryer mount. How perfect is that? When I'm outside working too, I can put my drink on here, pop it in there. Just great. And then kept soldering station there. Here was my metric connectors and some harness wrap. This is just soldering stuff. This is everything heat shrink. This is just more traditional crimp style connectors found here in America. And then a bunch of extra switches and relays and so on. So while it was all together, it was a bit messy. And I always wanted to make little, containers in there. But you're just limited on room, right? It just is what it is. But this thing, that thing is going to be cool. All right, my friends, I'm going to get back at it. Thought maybe you just enjoy seeing the projects we're working on and having some fun here in the How to Wrench shop. But if you haven't done so, make sure and like, share, and subscribe. And as always, keep wrenching.